To the start of this year, there wasn't a lot of optimism that big legislation would make it through Congress and into law, except when it came to immigration. This was supposed to be the one issue where all those tired cliches about the two parties putting aside their differences and working together would actually come true. The one issue where Republicans actually saw compromise as being in their self-interest. After all, Barack Obama had just won 71% of the Latino vote. And the Republican National Committee's so-called post-election autopsy concluded that, quote, we must embrace and champion comprehensive immigration reform. And there was some early momentum, too. A comprehensive reform bill actually passed the Senate in July with a real bipartisan majority. Even Bill O'Reilly was on board.
The Republican Party has a lot to lose here. If it doesn't compromise, many Hispanic voters will reject the GOP entirely, pretty much dooming the party in the future. That's reality. It is time for the USA to pass immigration reform.
And then came the summer recess, and governing grinds to a halt. The defund Obama crusade by Republicans, the debt ceiling debate, the shutdown, everything else, including immigration, has vanished from the radar. There used to be a gang of 8 in the House as a bipartisan group that was supposed to come up with its own immigration plan to then merge with the Senate's. But now it's a gang of 5. All of the Republicans except for one have abandoned it. That's why immigration reform advocates staged a rally on the National Mall this week to remind the political world that this major issue everyone said would be resolved this year is just as unresolved as ever. 100 peaceful protesters were arrested for blocking the road in front of the Capitol building, and that group included 8 members of Congress. And one of those arrested members, the person who RollingStone.com dubbed Congress's rebel with a cause, is Illinois Congressman Luis Gutiérrez. Congressman Gutiérrez joins us now live from Washington, D.C. Congressman, I know it's a busy day there. I appreciate you taking a few minutes.
It's great to be with you.
We set it up there where, you know, the momentum for immigration reform that really seemed to be there 11 months ago, right after the election, that really seemed to be there at the start of the year, seems to have when you have, you know, Republicans in the House who seem just scared to even touch this thing, leaving the gang of 5.
Sure.
What is the strategy? What is your strategy right now to get this back on track, to get momentum, to get a Republican House to pass real immigration reform in the next, you know, few months, year, whatever it is?
Good question, Steve. So last Saturday, over 160 events across the nation. You saw what happened on the mall this Tuesday. Look, I remember when I was at the White House stopping deportations alone. I invited other members. They didn't want to come. They didn't think it was an issue that they want. Now we had 8. We were there with John Lewis. Look, we're not going away. The movement is stronger, more determined than ever. So you can't, all of those blocks that were put together to pass in the Senate, the bill, are still there and increasing in terms of their power and the broadness of the movement and the structure. So, look, it's really dark, right? Syria came, then the debt ceiling, and the budget came, and the CR came. But this cloud will dissipate. The sun will come back. And what is it that the Republican colleagues of mine will have to see? Is that they're going to have to deal with it. Look, the first week of November, I can only imagine the kinds of activities that are going to take place across this nation. The immigrant community isn't giving up. Now, let me give you a couple of really positive things so that we see where the momentum is going to take us. Number one, 2007, 2008, 9, 10, Democrats held a majority of 240 to 250 in the House of Representatives. Never, not once, did the Democratic leadership ever engage in getting a bill passed. They are energetic about getting the bill passed now. They used to tell me, Steve, why don't you go get 45, 50 Republicans? And I used to get 4 or 5. Now we're getting 40, 50. And so what we have found is even right-wing magazines, ideologically right-wing, are talking about that there are 80 to 90. It's there. It's a question of harvesting it. Well, and the only way we're going to harvest it is the math.
That math, I'm interested to hear who those 80 to 90 are, because that math doesn't seem to mesh with the trajectory of this thing, which is that in the Senate, what was it? I think 15 Republicans in the Senate. It wasn't a majority of Republicans, but it was a big number in today's day and age. But it goes to the House, and what we've seen is the opposite. We had this gang of 8 in the House, which has now become a gang of 5 because Republicans are running away with it. And it really feels like the story of the year in the House, and this relates to the shutdown too, is these Republicans who are from districts that are really, they just don't look like the rest of America. All these demographic changes we're talking about nationally are not playing out in these Republican House districts. So where is the momentum to get those Republicans on board for something like this?
Sure. And the momentum is in the street. The momentum was shown last Tuesday. It's a momentum that isn't going to dissipate. I think the country should know and understand that every day 1,100 people are deported. We're going to soon mark the point of 2 million deportations since Barack Obama assumed the presidency of the United States. This is not an issue that can be waited for. It isn't something that, oh, well, no damage is done, we'll just wait a few more months. No, the damage is consistent, persistent in our community and our immigrant community, and nobody's going to. So look, the Republican, there are many, and one day maybe we'll see. I know right today there are 40 to 50 Republicans that are ready to vote for comprehensive immigration reform. What we have to do is get Speaker Boehner to allow a vote on that. And how do we get that? I think by making sure that we marshal our forces and make sure that the Republican Party understands that you can't walk away from this one. That there are going to be, that there is a demographic tsunami that you're going to have to deal with that is angry, but it's anxious for an answer on immigration reform, and you're going to have to give them one, or suffer really dire consequences. Look, if the Republican Party wants to be a party of localities, of provinces, of a few states, fine, don't do comprehensive immigration reform, because you will never be able to do it again. 2,000 Latinos turn 18 every day in America. And that's 2,000 more voters. We know 2 million more vote between each election cycle for president. It's going to happen.
Okay, very confident words there. We thank you, Congressman Luis Gutiérrez from Illinois.
Steve.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll be right back with some closing thoughts.